Welcome, fans of scary and... I tried to do like an atmospheric intro, and I fucked it up already. Listener
So,
beware, you're in for a scare.
welcome to the Inadvisable Slashathon.
Welcome to at least 12 minutes of audio that we definitely didn't fuck up the recording of last time. So,
So we'll be taking
well,
several horror.
let's go over the very basics. This is a podcast. If this is a movie review podcast specifically, uh,
Yeah,
leaning towards horror and more specifically, typically slasher horror,
yeah, we
although
have a
not
whole
exclusively.
letterboxed list that we're gonna be going through, and that will be linked.
Of 100 movies, um, it may actually increase.
Yeah, because I've been considering maybe the Final Destination ones.
I wasn't thinking Final Destination, but I was thinking of the Resident Evil movies.
Oh god, and honestly, yeah, there's so many of those, isn't there?
So the reason this came about is twofold. The first thing is like almost 2 years ago at this point, or like a year and a half ago at least, or a year and three quarters. Both of us and some other friends got into Dead by Daylight. Uh, and
It's a veritable repertoire of killers from movies.
and survivors from movies.
Well, yes.
And it's like, I like to look into the lore of games, and the lore of the licensed characters is very much intertwined with what they're actually from, obviously,
hmm
with the exception of Ghostface.
Yeah, they just made up a guy for that.
They just made up a guy for that. But that just got me, and I think probably Vera, at the time, interested in the sort of slasher genre, but I didn't look more into it until, on a whim, I decided to watch John Carpenter's 1982 cult classic, The Thing. Because I had
And
seen
then I promptly did it as well, the same day.
the same day, yeah. Um, The Thing is a very good film.
Honestly, probably one of my top 10 movies of all time.
It is really fucking good. And sort of reignited this interest in the genre because it is a genre that both of us have slept on for, well, 23 years.
Yeah, I got initially really turned off of the horror genre when I watched like Insidious for the first time when I was like 13 or 14 or something.
Mm-hmm.
No, and actually I was definitely in high school, so like 15 probably. But
I remember
it
hearing
was
kids at school talking about Insidious, of like, oh, it's so scary, it's like the scariest thing you'll ever see. And so I was
yeah.
like, okay, well, I don't want to see it then.
I watched the first one and it is I just do not think it's a good movie. It is uninteresting. It is just bad to me. And it just put me off of the genre of horror majorly.
I was put off of the genre of horror even earlier than that. I was put off when I was sort of... My parents are not big horror fans, for one. So when I was absorbing their movie taste while a small child, I didn't get any real chance to watch any real proper horror films, with the exception of more horror comedies like Little Shop of Horrors, Shaun of the Dead, that sort of thing. But I was probably turned off the genre when I was about 9 years old, in the fucking bargain aisle of Tesco, and I read the back of the DVD cover for Nightmare on Elm Street. I don't remember if it was the original or if it was the remake, because the remake was 2010, which kind of lines up. So I don't know which one it was, but I was so scared by just the premise on the back of the DVD case that I didn't have nightmares about it. I don't typically have nightmares about things that scare me. I just stay up before I go to sleep thinking I'm going to have nightmares about them. And then I don't. So that happened, and that had only really happened once or twice before with other things. So that sort of put me off the genre, and it's taken a while to sort of get back into it. And we are getting back into it in a major fucking way.
Yeah, with a list of 100 movies that might fucking expand even.
Yes,
So
as we said. So there are a few standalones, but most of these are sort of big-ish franchises.
a few standalones. Read 2.
Yeah. There's Alien. We've both seen the original Alien movie. But that's
Yeah,
it. And we're probably going to rewatch it for this.
almost definitely.
Uh,
Then we got Predator.
Predator, and then the Alien versus Predator movies.
The fact that there's 2 of them.
Yeah, I don't think there needs to be two of them. We've got the Cloverfield movies, which fall on the thing of not slashers, but we've agreed that Cloverfield is something of a modern classic.
Yeah. Then we got the 5 Purge movies.
Le Purge, which also not sort of typical slasher.
Yeah, they probably border more on thriller than horror.
But then we do have some pretty typical slashers. Just this is on the list. This isn't the order we're going to be watching them in.
Yeah, like,
In
we're
Nightmare
starting
on
with
Elm,
Scream.
A Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th, and then also
Yeah,
Freddy versus Jason.
Although we're probably gonna do Freddy vs. Jason and then the 2 remakes as their own thing.
Yes, we should say we're not doing an episode of the podcast for every single fucking movie. We are breaking it down by series, 1 or maybe 2 episodes per series of films.
Then we have Saw.
Saw, of which there is another one coming out this year. Saw. Well, we were saying Saw X, but they've used Roman numerals before, so I guess it is probably just Saw 10.
Yeah.
And then Halloween and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Then Scream.
Halloween is definitely like definitely genre defining. So
the original Halloween is the second highest rated film on Letterboxd in this list, second only to the original Scream.
And Texas Chainsaw Massacre is fucking annoying with its naming scheme, because the first one you got Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Then you go way down the line, you got The Texas Chainsaw Massacre with no space. And then last year, 2022, you get just Texas Chainsaw Massacre without the. What the fuck?
Let's not forget that in 2006 they released The Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Beginning, which was the 6th goddamn film in the franchise. Much like, if we go back to Friday the 13th, they made Friday the 13th, the final chapter, in 1984, and then proceeded to make 8 more. If you count Freddy vs. Jason. Getting back onto the list of series after Scream, which we will be watching probably Scream 7, but that's not slated to come out until apparently 2025. It's only been recently announced. That would have to be its own separate episode, because we're starting with the first 6 Scream movies.
Yeah. After which there's 11 fucking Hellraisers.
There are 11 Hellraisers. 7 of them are the lowest ranked movies, the 7 lowest ranked movies on this Letterboxd list.
I'm just hoping that they're gonna be the fun kind of bad.
I don't think they're going to be.
Fuck.
And then, oh yeah, they made 2 different Hellraiser movies in 2005. Hellraiser Deader and Hellraiser Hellworld.
One of which is about gamers.
One of which is about gamers, which is, unsurprisingly, the one called Hellworld.
Yep.
The jokes sort of write themselves. We're also going to watch the Evil Dead movies. from what I can tell, they're basically all quite different from each other, with the exception of the most recent two, which are because like Evil Dead 1 is straight horror, Evil Dead 2 is horror comedy, Evil Dead 3 is more comedy than horror. But the most recent two, Evil Dead and Evil Dead Rise, are just more horror
Yeah.
films.
And we're just doing the movies. We're not gonna do the Ash versus Evil Dead show.
Unless we want to. Unless we
Yeah,
really
true,
like
true.
the character of Ash Williams.
Which we might.
Which we might. And if we do, then we will include that in the thing. Then we've got for standalone. Oh, we've also got the two Happy Death Day movies, which we don't know much about, but because they're not related to Dead by Daylight at all, nobody really talks about them
But
in
we do know
DVD
it involves
circles.
a time loop.
But yeah, that's the reason they're on there. And then standalone wise, we have Tucker and Dale versus Evil, which is just seemingly just a fun little sort of gory horror comedy romp. It's got Alan Tudyk in it, and I like Alan Tudyk.
And Cabin in the Woods, because we needed to torment ourselves with Joss Whedon.
We don't like Joss Whedon. If you follow the links in the description to our Letterboxd pages, you will find our reviews for the first two Avengers movies, which are very Joss Whedon. And they're our main exposure to the guy, so we don't have the highest...
Yeah, I never watched Firefly or Buffy.
Yeah, neither. And then I guess we could put the Resident Evil movies on there as well. It would make it more than a nice 100, but...
Yeah, same goes for potentially Final Destination. Yeah.
I'm not sure about Final Destination yet, but this is something we can work out later.
Yeah.
But the first episode we've already decided will be all 6 currently available Scream movies.
Yeah.
So we're going to be watching those over the course of an amount of time. There is not going to be a strict upload schedule for these episodes. It will just be when we're done with a series or part of a series and make the episode.
Yeah, especially considering the series are quite variable in length.
But we are watching the first Scream movie later on the day that we record this first little intro.
Yeah. Also, one thing regarding horror is that, like, I used to be, like, a really fucking squeamish with gore. So that's also one thing that kind of put me off, but funnily enough, that has been kind of cured on account of watching fucking Amazon's The Boys.
SpongeBob yelling meme, but it's just like, I love gore. I want to see blood and viscera.
I fucking love ultraviolence. Renfield. Renfield.
Renfield does not count and will not be on this fucking thing, but it's there's a lot of bad CGI blood in that movie.
And it's beautiful.
So yeah, this is the next episode, the first episode, the Scream episode, is going to be talking about 6 movies. So that's going to be significantly longer than this sort of intro thing. This is just setting expectations and announcing to the world that this is a thing that we're doing.
Yeah.
For the love of the game more than anything else. Not Dead by Daylight, talking about movies.
Bitches will watch the thing and then not fucking shut up about it.
The Thing is a very good movie. That's the thing. Haha. I'm very funny. Also, I'm going to give the episodes funny titles. That's neither here nor there, but they won't be mentioned in the episodes, but you'll see them in the names of the YouTube videos. And that's what really matters.
But of course. I think we've about covered everything.
Yes, so until next episode, I've been Jess.
I've been Vera.
And this has been the Inadvisable Slashathon.